Are you tired of being weak, scrawny, tired, and looking like this guy? Well then, try Jacob's Doping Wonder. My special blend of steroids and stimulants will make you go from looking like this to this. It will increase muscle mass, energy levels, endurance, recovery time, and height. Order your shot in the butt today. Warning, may cause testicular shrinkage, cancer, and simon heart failure and death. Many athletes use drugs like these to be the best at their sport. This allows them to win championships and medals time and time again. But to many sports fans' chagrin, this usually leads to players and teams being stripped of prizes or even being banned from the sport. In the South, nearly everyone is a sports fan, so this topic has affected them in some way. I have researched these topics over the last 3 weeks and read countless articles, I picked out the best 3 that cover this topic. Today, I'm going to inform you about doping in professional athletics. First, I will going to tell you about the history of doping. Second, I will tell you about why most people think doping is bad and should be stopped, and why some people believe that doping is good and actively participate in it. First, I'm going to tell you about the history of doping. The use of drugs to enhance a person's athletic prowess has been used since the beginning of sports itself. In the Greek Olympics, a mixture of brandy and wine was drunk, as well as hallucinogenic mushrooms eaten to increase an athlete's stamina and endurance. But using drugs to increase performance was not only used by athletes, but also used by soldiers in many different time periods. The famous Viking berserkers would take a drug that would increase their bloodlust and pain tolerance, and the medieval knights would take a drug that would increase their stamina. For the longest time, using these sorts of drugs to improve an athlete or soldier was common practice, and nothing was thought of it until the end of World War I. At the end of World War I, doping began to be frowned upon and be called cheating. This did nothing to stop the use of drugs. Many people did not support this, and did not support the idea that doping was cheating, especially the athletes and coaches. It was not until 1967 that a drug test was created for the Olympic Games, and several drugs were banned. This was mainly due to advances in medicine that created new powerful drugs called anabolics. Originally, drugs had only been stimulants that would increase stamina and occasionally performance, but these new drugs would also increase muscle mass and mental awareness. While the Olympics began to ban drugs in 1967, it was 15 years until any professional U.S. sport banned drugs. In 1982, the NFL created their first drug test, but it was not until 1986, when the NCAA created their own drug test, that the NFL began to test for steroids. The MLB created a drug test in 2006, but it is still very lenient. Now that I've told you about the history, I'm going to tell you about why some people believe that doping should be banned. There's a large group of people that believes that doping should be banned. This is an opinion that has been carried out on and still is. Many people believe that using these drugs are unethical and are a form of cheating. An athlete no longer must rely on their own strengths and talents, and instead just of the right dosage of steroids and stimulants to be the best at any competition. This is also seen as a bad role model for children everywhere. Instead of someone who has worked hard his or her entire life to win something, instead it is down to just whoever just takes the right drugs and has the most money to be the best at competition. Now that is the moral standpoint, but many people cannot answer why the drugs are actually bad. There are side effects to almost every single drug in the market. Steroids can cause testicular damage and cancer. stimulants can cause insomnia and mental deteriorations. And now back to the role model argument from a few moments ago. It is now easier than ever for junior high and high school athletes to get their hands on performance-enhancing drugs. The main problem with this is that many counterfeit drugs have been created. And they are sold at an extremely low price and are very easy to get their hands on. These counterfeit drugs can do not have any of the good parts of doping, just only the side effects. And not to mention the large risk of overdose. Now that I've told you about the history and the anti-doping stance, I'm going to tell you about the pro-doping stance. There are some people that do support doping. It is not a popular opinion, but it does exist. The people that mainly support doping are the athletes and coaches. Many coaches do not get paid if they're do not get paid as much if their athlete does not win. The same goes for the athletes. In MMA, a fighter is given $10,000 if they win, $10,000 if they fight. But if they win, they earn $50,000. This want for money and job security leads to many athletes using performance-enhancing drugs and many coaches encouraging it. The other thing that garners support of doping is the creation of drugs with minimal side effects. One such drug is mildronate, also known as meldonium. This drug increases endurance, recovery time, and central nervous functions without horrible side effects. The only side effects are digestive problems, high heart rate, high and low blood pressure, and allergic reactions. This is also something that can happen if you eat something bad at a Chinese restaurant. This drug has not been banned by the World Anti-Doping Agency, so it is legal to use for athletes, and it is actually sold over the counter and is not expensive. This shows that doping is not necessarily harmful to the body if the right drug is taken with the correct dose. Today I've informed you about doping in professional athletics. We'll talk about the history, controversy, and the helpfulness. Doping is a multi-million-dollar industry that improves upon a human's natural ability. Is it good? Is it bad? Well, that's up for you to decide.